Hey everyone, it's Renee from Sweet Pea Labs here to give you a quick preview of the Parts of a Flower interactive digital notebook. This notebook is also included in my Parts of a Plant, a much larger interactive notebook, but this is a smaller notebook inside that. So I'm offering this as a product, standalone product. Here we start out with the teacher version. When you get this product, you'll have two versions. You'll have the teacher version and the student version. The teacher version will have a few more slides than the student version. One of them being this, teacher tips and tricks, just talking about making a copy for each student for Google Classroom, and a few other tips here as well. Also in the teacher's set of slides, I've included this interactive notebook tutorial. That's a YouTube video tutorial for your students. If they watch it one time, they won't need to watch it again, but it basically goes over all of the slides toolbar and what you might need to use for the interactive notebooks through Sweet Pea Labs. I've also included a Google Slides tips sheet. This is included in the student version as well, so they can reference this as they're going along if they're not sure exactly how to do something or manipulate something on Google Slides. I've got a welcome page. This is for the students too, welcoming them to their interactive digital notebook, telling them sort of what's going on, what they might be asked to do, and to not forget to look back to their Google Slides tip sheet if they get confused or if they need some help. And we start out here talking about just about flowers, what flowers are, what they're meant to do, that we use them for decoration, for special occasions, and that we can even eat them as food. So then here's a good example of how we eat flowers as food. And I go right into parts of a flower. Here I keep it pretty simple. This is elementary school age product. So we separate the flower into the male and the female part. And I talk about this here. And then I break that down even further, breaking down the male part to the stamen and it being the anther and the filament, and then talking a little bit about pollen here and showing where pollen is produced. And then showing that on a real flower, which I think is very important. How many times do you see things that are just diagrams like this, but you never actually see it on a real flower? So I think it's important to be able to show students that this happens in nature and it looks very different on all the different flowers. So arrows here pointing to all the different stamens. Moving on to the female part of the flower, which is the pistil. I've only broken this down to the stigma, style, and ovary. You can get very technical in what's going on in reproduction in flowers, but again, this is an elementary product, so we're keeping it pretty simple here. Showing this in real life, real flower photos, showing what the pistil looks like on different flowers, right? They don't all look like the diagram, some of them do. It just really depends. Then I have the first interactive part of the notebook here, where it says drag the arrows to the correct part of the plant. The red arrows to the pistil, the blue arrows to the stamen. And so they're able to take the arrows here to the left-hand side and point them where they need to go. Okay, so that's pretty easy and basic. If they end up resizing the arrows, that's fine. If they want to turn the arrows, I have a little hint here for them to turn the arrows. Everyone's minds think differently, so they have some options there. And then for the teacher's set of slides, I have the answer key here showing you where the red arrows should be pointing, where the blue arrows should be pointing for the pistil and the stamen. And then moving on further, talking about pollen being moved from the stamen to the pistil. And that's the process called pollination, right? That's kind of the whole point of flowers ultimately. And saying that when the pollen goes down into the ovaries, that seeds will form, and that's how we get new plants. And then that's bringing up the fact of like, hey, how does the pollen get from the stamen to the pistil? And so that brings up pollinators, and pollinators being pollen helpers and helping to move the pollen from the pistil or from the stamen to the pistil of the flower so the flower can make seeds. And here are a few examples of different types of pollinators actually pollinating flowers, which is kind of fun. Here's another interactive part of the notebook, and this is having students insert 3 pictures of pollinators using the insert image button up here and the search the web button, which is a safe Google search here. And I'm asking them to search for the word pollinators. So a lot of pictures will pop up showing different pollinators, or if they have some pollinators in mind, they can type in that name of a pollinator there. I have next talking about the petals, right? Since we've talked about pollinators, petals now come into play, and petals being things that actually attract the pollinators, whether it be their shape or their color. And then again, with that, talking about the sepals here at the bottom, which were the leaf-like structures protecting the flower when they were just a bud. And again, relating that to real life here, saying notice, all the different sizes and shapes of the petals of these flowers. So students might begin to notice in nature. And this is a great thing to do if you're doing nature journaling, going around after what would be late in the school year or early in the fall, where you can look at actual flowers blooming and take note of the different size and shapes of petals. And then here's another interactive part of this notebook. This is a wide section of the notebook, so the students can scroll here at the bottom, asking to drag and drop the flower parts to create their own flower, right? So these are all draggable pieces. They can put them however they need to. If they end up resizing it, it's not a big deal as long as they fit on the page. And if they don't fit on the page, that's actually okay too. And then the answer key provided for you. There are only 4 different labels here because we're keeping it very simple. We've got the pistil, the stamen, the petals, and the sepals. And then an overall sort of flowers review, talking about what is the most important function of flowers, really, like why do flowers even exist? Describe how pollination occurs, kind of important in this notebook, and then naming 2 things that surprise them about flowers. So that can really be anything that they choose that they've learned through the notebook. And that's sort of a good reflection piece there for you as an educator. Quick and easy assessment, especially if you're sharing this through Google Classroom, they can just turn it in. If not, you can look in their shared doc or their share slides with you. That's completely up to you. And at the end of their student notebook, it shows the end. You are now a flower expert. And then at the end of the teacher slides, I have who I got my clip art here, lovely Jubilees Teach. So that's about it. Again, this is part of a much larger notebook that I'm working on called Parts of a Plant. And enjoy. See ya.